Today we'd like to introduce our good friend Jeff McAndrew. So Jeff, how's it going?
Going great, and thanks a lot for inviting me on. This is a great opportunity.
Absolutely, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm Dixie Jarko, and this
I'm
is...
Tom Cannon.
Oh, what are you up to with writing?
Well, I sort of started writing, I guess at a later age, but somewhat by necessity. It was really when my child was diagnosed with autism, and following that, I sort of had an urge to write something as a catharsis kind of thing. I'll take you back to 2002. We were vacationing in our most favorite vacation spot in Door County called the Country House, my wife and I. We'd been married for about, maybe 5 years at that time. And we met a person named Jennifer Burns, who had written a book about her special needs son.
Oh.
And we ran into her, we talked to her for like an hour or two at the resort. She was working part-time at the resort at the time. And I just had I had it well up in me that I needed to write a book about my son. At that time, my son was about 6 years old. And we had so many, all the way till 6, we had so many stories to share already. And so it was more of a personal catharsis. My son's name is Stefan. He has autism and developmental disabilities.
And the name of the book right here, right?
Our Brown-Eyed Boy.
That's not going to show up, but we'll do it when we can. Our Brown-Eyed Boy. Yeah, and that, just as a coincidence, I had read that a while ago, and I really liked it. So
Thanks, Tom. Yeah. And so, it really it was a catharsis for me to write it, and it was really neat to be able to put down in words some of the situations we ran into. And I've had many comments from other parents of autistic kids that really helped them because they realized they were, not going through things all alone. That there were a lot of similar things, especially like when we first kind of realized things were different. Like, for example, when he was about 2 years old, and he would be watching TV, and we would be yelling his name, and he wouldn't turn around. Things like that. Eye contact, the way he interacted. So we kind of pretty much knew by the age of 2 or 3 that something was.
That's interesting. My nephew is autistic, and the first time I went over to see him, because they live quite a ways away, he jumped. I think he was 4, and he jumped the whole time we were there. And I'm a teacher, so I'm looking at this kid going, that's not how my kids were. And I see a lot of kids, and it was just kind of like, wow, there's something going on here. And then later he was diagnosed as autistic, which is, as you know, a huge, it's called the broad spectrum, because they'll throw a lot of things in there.
It is.
But they didn't have no idea. It was their first kid. They had no idea that was not the way,
Yeah.
or you'll get a lot of a lot of kids are like that. This kid I know, he does that too. That's nothing to be concerned about.
Right. And that's part of the book, too, that you probably picked up on right away, is that we had relatives, and we described, especially Debbie's mother, who was telling us, he's going to be fine, don't worry about it, he's good. And so we had a lot of people with the positive vibes really trying to say, it's going to be okay.
Good.
And they were doing it out of the goodness of
Yes.
their heart. It wasn't like, oh, you're wrong, and no. But
they weren't specialists or anything.
Right. But they were just loving. And so a lot of the stories that I share in the book are about Stefan in public, Stefan with relatives, and how it sort of changed our relationships. And Stefan taught us a new way to love and live life, kind of, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So at 2, was he diagnosed then?
He was, just about after 2. We had a Birth to 3 organization come in. They did some testing, and then they suspected some of the behaviors that they observed that he would be autistic or have tendencies. Was the word? The term was autistic tendencies.
Right.
And then we did some further neurological. We worked with a neurologist, and they confirmed that there were some brainwave things that were a little bit different too. So. So then we did know that, and he was actually diagnosed as autism at that about 2.5.
Down in Madison?
Yeah. And what we also did is we helped develop the first autism school in Fond du Lac, the First Step program.
Wow.
And I talk about in the book about as parents getting together with the ground level of that with other parents, and we had a parents group.
That's kind of powerful.
Yeah, it is. It changed our lives dramatically. But it was such an interesting road. But the parents group was interesting too, because at that time there were a lot of people pushing like vitamin theories and things that were not scientific.
Oh,
And I
okay.
am rather direct in the book about.
Did you
we're
try
not,
those?
We're
or?
not buying. We did a little bit. We tried some vitamins for a week or two, and that made him not more hyper actually. And so we tried some of the things, but I think that autism is more deeply seated, neurological, genetic is And we had these parents that were trying all of these things and special diets, and not to say that the special diets, the gluten casein free diets, and I'm sure you're familiar with those.
Yes.
Not to say that those are not helpful, but we saw that there was something deeper, probably genetically. And I interview 2 psychiatrists and a pediatrician in the book, pretty much pointing to the fact that it's got to be a deeper genetic cause. And Stefan also has developmental disabilities, so his mental age is about 2.5.
Okay.
He's now 20 years old.
Oh, okay.
In the book, I go through about, say, the age of 6 or 7. So I'm contemplating maybe even writing another book
Yeah,
sometime.
you should.
Yeah.
About his adulthood, and placing him was difficult too.
Boy, that's got to be.
We had to place him when he was 11 years old outside the home, and that was a very traumatic situation for our family. So, and that's maybe another book in the making right there.
Oh, absolutely. I do think that parents are just, with children with autism and disabilities, I mean, they're hungry for those stories, and
Absolutely.
then, it'd be helpful then for somebody else that's had to go through the same thing,
Absolutely.
as well.
Well, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but my nephew, one who is autistic, and he jumps and he yells a lot, which for me is pretty normal behavior for an autistic child. But his younger sister, who is not autistic, is picking up those behaviors. And it's kind of strange because she is not autistic.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, but she is doing the same thing that he's kind of taught her to do. It's strange. So where can people find this book?
Well, it's still available on Amazon, and there are still actual copies available.
It's called Our Brown-Eyed Boy by Jeffrey McAndrew.
With a foreword by Dr. Darold Treffert, who is very well known in the autism circles. Correct?
Yes, he is, and he's actually an expert, one of the national experts on savant syndrome.
Oh, okay. Well, you hear about that all the time in the movies and stuff.
Yeah, but it really happens in real life.
Yeah.
I mean,
Is it pretty rare, though?
It is fairly rare.
Yeah.
But those you can have maybe an IQ of 50, and you can be on the autism spectrum. And somebody like Leslie Lemke, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's been featured on 60 Minutes with Darold. And you can play a tape recording of a Mozart piano sonata, right? And maybe 2 minutes of it, and then he can sit down and just play it from memory.
That's
and
amazing.
Yeah, he's still alive. He still does concerts. I believe he's in his 60s now. But Daryl is an inspiration to me because of his hope for autistic individuals, and he's been a friend of her family for a long time. He was also a consultant to the movie Rain Man. So, and Rain Man really was a very realistic depiction. It got a lot of I should say applause for its very realistic depiction of what autism really is. It didn't sensationalize autism, or some movies might have autistic individuals with special magical powers, or maybe makes a good movie. But Rain Man hit it on the head, and a lot of that had to do with Dr. Treffert's advice and his expertise. So I highly respect him, as you can tell.
Oh, yeah.